Hello, my name is Sonia and welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing my process of painting a beautiful mandala design onto a timber board. I love using timber boards as a change from canvas or paper. I think it's just a feeling of the timber. It brings me back to my childhood. My dad was actually a carpenter, so I spent a lot of time hanging around the factory, which was always full of timber, and the smell was divine. Anyway, it's a nice change to mix it up every so often. And timber behaves very similar to canvas, except that obviously it's more rigid, so it can be more forgiving, especially during the pencil sketching stage. Preparing the timber board took me a little while to figure out, to be honest. The pencil sketching can get messy if you're doing a lot of erasing, so I don't worry too much about perfection at that stage. Acrylic paint will absorb into the board and bleed, which will ruin the end result if you don't treat the timber correctly. So through many trials and errors, my process now is to sketch in pencil onto the raw timber, and I do all my design corrections at this stage. Then when I'm happy with the design, I go over it with a layer or two of clear gesso. And this has two functions really. It fixes or holds my pencil sketch lines so they don't smudge, and seals the timber so the paint will sit nicely on the top rather than absorbing in and bleeding into the timber grain. If the paint bleeds into the grain, you can never get smooth lines, and my designs, well, they like nice smooth lines. The paint I'm using here is acrylic paint. I always use professional quality paint, but if you're starting out, it's okay to use a student quality paint. Never let anything stop you being creative. Even if money is an issue, you'd be surprised if you asked around to everyone you knew. A lot of people have old art supplies stashed away that they'd be more than happy to give to you. When I first started drawing mandalas in 2017, I started with only a pencil, a ruler, a compass, a few black pens and some very cheap paper. You really don't need much, so never let anything stop you from being creative. Now, one of my problems, if you could call it that, is my obsession with perfectionism. You'll notice in this painting that my shapes are painted very neatly. Look, I just can't help myself. I've been drawing and painting mandalas for over 7 years now, and I have a very high attention to detail, but that's just how my brain works. My fine motor skills, if that's what you call them, have been highly tuned in that time. So this is just how I do what I do. What you see as being neat and perfect, it is certainly neat, but I'm not trying to create perfection. And that's a really important point. Perfectionism is never the goal. I create with my hands because this is my passion. So creating this design, for example, digitally, like on an iPad, would be technically perfect, but so boring for me. I've, in the past, drawn mandalas with such fine precision that they were mistaken for being computer generated, and that just broke my heart. I want my work to be viewed as handmade, to see the time and the love and the hours that I put into something. So I actually started trying to put imperfections into my work so people would know that it was made by a human. That may seem a tad weird, but well, welcome to my world. So I'd hate for anyone to view my art process and feel that they could never give it a go, because they could never create something so neat and tidy. I actually feel that my level of perfectionism is my handicap, because I love seeing that human side of art, you know, the messy moments, the wobbly lines. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I also actually have the most teeny tiny little brushes you've ever seen. Some only have a few strands to them. So the right tools for the job also contribute a great deal. That said, I do buy a lot of cheap brushes with pointy tips in all sizes. So again, don't feel that you need to buy expensive brushes, because oh boy, they can get really expensive. Painting like this is therapeutic for me. I enjoy the process so much that I actually get sad when an artwork is finished. I've usually got quite a few in production at the same time though. So, creating videos for YouTube actually helps me out because it forces me to be more disciplined in getting my artworks finished. You may be noticing that as the shapes get larger, my brush size increases slightly. I don't use very large brushes, even on the larger shapes, and this is just because I really enjoy the painting process, and smaller brushes give more control. Maybe that's the secret to painting neat shapes. A larger brush will give you less control, and I'm certainly not in any rush. Now, you may be wondering about colours. How do I choose colours? Well, there is a bit of a process to this. Before I start any painting, I work out which colours I'll be using, but I haven't decided where they're going to go. A tip I could give you is to limit your colour palette, depending on the size of the artwork. So this one, being medium-sized design, uses 3 main colours, and then there are many shade variations of those 3 colours. So the actual colours could be maybe 7, 8, 9, something like that. So my 3 main colours here, as you can see, are the teal, the aqua, the blue, and the purple. And you can see how I use a combination of these 3 main colours together with shade variations of those colours to create a nice flow throughout the artwork. Colour choice is quite an important part of the whole process, and I'll go into more detail about how I choose colours in another video. But once you get a feel for how to flow with 2 or 3 main colours, it all takes shape very nicely. The background colour is a new colour. It's a much darker, rich blue than any other colours used within the mandala. And this really helps the design stand out to look crisp and bright. And now I'm on to the next stage, which is the Posca pen outline stage. This helps neaten the shapes and makes the design really pop. Posca pens are just an acrylic paint pen, and the paint flows really nicely, so I love using them. In the center part, I used a smaller 1mm pen, the 3M size, and as the shapes get larger, I change to the 2.5mm nib size, which is the 5M pen. Practice makes perfect when it comes to drawing shapes, and I've drawn these types of shapes so many times over the years, so it's looking very neat and tidy. But give it a go and keep trying until you get to a point when you're happy. Now, as you can see, I am turning my artwork all the time to position the board in a comfortable place for me to draw, rather than me working around in a circle. It's best to rotate your artwork, not your arm or your body. Sometimes with Posca pens, you might need to go over the line a few times to strengthen the color and create a smooth line. But again, this could just be my perfectionism coming out, so maybe that's not necessary. I really enjoyed this stage of the design, as you can see the artwork really coming together as I imagined it to be, and the colors pop out against the white lines. Also, I love working with Posca pens because drawing is as enjoyable to me as painting. And this is not even sponsored by Posca in any way, but I wish it was. I've just used these pens for many years. A few thicker edge lines around the outside balance the artwork very nicely. Again, easy to do with the paint pen. I felt there were some gaps in the outer edge design, so I added another round of petals to fill that in and create a more complete design. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Designs are always changeable, always adaptable, whether you make an error or just feel something looks unfinished. It's always a good idea to be open to improving and updating your artwork. I do love to add a few dots to these types of mandalas to create a nice finishing touch. The dots also tie a design together, and I always love the result. A word of warning though, don't go too overboard with your dots. They're quite fun to do. Using a dotting tool is good fun, so you can go a bit crazy. So make sure you edit yourself. Always do something and then sit back and have a good look at it. The dotting tool is just a plastic cylinder type thing. They're super cheap to pick up on Amazon. I'll leave a few links to the tools that I use in the description below if you're interested. I've separated them out into US viewers and Australian viewers because here in Australia, you know, it's like our own little planet. We don't always get everything that you can get in the US. I've tried dotting with the backs of brushes, twigs from the garden, other various tools, but I find these ones the most consistent, very easy to use. Always dot from the inside of your artwork to the outer edges so you don't smudge your work. There is nothing more annoying than smudging your dots. I've definitely learned that the hard way. So now I always work from inside to outside and always move the artwork around to meet my hand. That way you're not going over the artwork at any point. So that's it, my creative friends. I hope you've enjoyed watching this artwork progress through all its stages. I'm so happy with the completed artwork. I hope I've been able to inspire you to have a go at painting something like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below and let me know if you have any questions. Bye for now.